Good morning. Welcome to those of you at mochurch.tv. I'm glad you're hanging with us. If you want to grab a paperback Bible, pass it down to your lovely friends who are not near a pile of Bibles. That would be awesome, and I'll tell you where to turn later there. But, man, I love that story of Jeremy Speth. Such a great story. His story is such a great story. Such a great example of why this team started Momentum back in 2005. Just reaching people like Jeremy Speth, reaching people who were far from Jesus, never thought they'd be caught dead going to church, basically. And now he's a key leader at our Garfield Heights campus. Just a solid dude. He runs sound on Sunday. He's back there right now, hiding behind the board. He invests in students, goes above and beyond investing in students. And he's apprenticing to be an elder. And one of the things I love about Jeremy Speth is he leads himself. Like every once in a while in a conversation will come up that he's listening to some podcast about Christian leadership or reading a book. And I'm like, man, I'm so proud of you that you lead yourself in that kind of way. And he's just really a whatever it takes kind of servant. Like, man, Jeremy Speth rolls his sleeves up and just gets stuff done with the team. And I'm super proud to be on a church team with Jeremy Speth, serving God and serving others. So about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I decided that we were going to scrap what we were doing in the middle of this series, Christmas Journeys, and said, man, this morning I think there's just some stuff that I need to be really honest about. And so I just want to kind of say up front, if you're new to Momentum, or if you're not a follower of Jesus, I want to be really clear that this morning I am not talking to you, okay? I can't underscore that enough. If you're new, if you're not a follower of Jesus, I'm not talking to you. So this morning might get a little uncomfortable, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay. I think that's kind of my MO. Maybe my spiritual gift is making things uncomfortable at times. But if you're new, I just want to make that clear. So this morning is going to be kind of a family conversation because really there's no time like Sunday morning where we can get all or most of the family in a room together to have a family conversation. And so really you're going to kind of get to peek under the hood of Momentum a little bit, and that's okay. But one of Momentum's core values is authenticity. And I've briefly mentioned some of this stuff to my Mo group and was just like, man, I think it's time to kind of talk to the entire Sunday morning crew at Garfield Heights about this. So this morning I'm sharing 10 things I need to be honest about with you. And so one of the things that I need to be honest with you, number one, is that since I was about 19 years old, all I've ever wanted to do was lead an awesome church. I know that's crazy because some of you are like, man, I'm not called to do that. I'm called to do this, that, or the other. And it seems like such an insane thing to want to do this, okay? To want to do what I want to do. And I know it's crazy, but I went into ministry knowing it's going to be really tough. You'll never be rich. Okay, that kind of stuff. There will be people with family of origin issues or authority issues and things that they won't even know me yet, but they'll automatically dislike me because I'm a leader or because I'm on stage. And it's like, I don't care, man. Ministry is what God's calling me to. Like, I want to make ripples with my life. I want to ripple on people who will ripple on people. I want to make an impact on others. And so that's what I want to do. I want to influence people for the sake of Jesus. And even though, honestly, a lot of pastors that I know gravitate toward warm, sunny, rich neighborhoods, distant suburbs and all this kind of stuff, and often toward Atlanta. And I want to be honest, I was really felt like, man, I want to go to a great but overlooked city like Cleveland. I want to be in a city like this, and I've got kind of a chip on my shoulder about it. Sometimes with my friends that I know from around the country, I'm like, I think God's called plenty of people to Atlanta. I think you need to listen more carefully. Maybe he's not calling all of you. Chest shove, And so I'm just like, man, why are there not more people called to Milwaukee and Buffalo and Cleveland? I get Milwaukee and Buffalo, but Cleveland, okay? So call me crazy, but I want to see people like Jeremy Speth who are far from Jesus at one point be like, whoa, I didn't expect it, but man, yeah, I could follow Jesus. And there are people like me who also follow Jesus and become a follower of Jesus and be a student of God's word and have spiritual community in the church and learn to serve and learn to be generous and learn to care about kids and students and tell their stories to others and baptize their friends and make an impact and make ripples on others around them and to go out in the nooks and crannies of society that they're from or where they work, whether it's public schools or whether it's the healthcare industry or the music, scene, whatever it is. I've always wanted to do that since I was 19 years old. I want to make an impact and ripple on other people's lives. And I've been doing this for 22 and a half years now. And I'm like, man, this is all I've ever wanted to do. And now that I'm in my early 30s, it's still all that I want to do. Okay, that better not be the thing you laugh at the most this morning. So I just want to confess that. Number two, I must confess, there actually is some country music that I like. I'm just going to be honest with you, okay? Some, not much, but I want to be honest. I want to be fully authentic and transparent. Waylon Jennings' song, the Dukes of Hazzard theme, just a good old boy. Man, I love that. That nothing gives me like more nostalgia and warm fuzzies than hearing that song. Hank Williams Jr., Family Traditions, Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. There's life lessons in that, people. Okay, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison Blues. But I would argue that Johnny Cash is also rock and blues and folk and gospel. You can't have him, country fans. He's not all yours, all right? And so there are some bad boys. These were the bad boys of music often in that day. And I really related to some of their music because I grew up fighting and chasing girls and getting into a lot of trouble. Now, I'll be really clear. I love the food at Texas Roadhouse, but I generally hate the music. And I have been known to talk to my server and say, can you please ask the manager if they can turn this to rock or hip hop? Please, So it's not all country music. Hear me well. I'm not jetting off to any honky-tonk line dances or anything. But there are some country songs that I do like. Number three, I have to be honest, I am so encouraged by the number of volunteers who serve at Momentum Garfield Heights. I'm so encouraged by that. I mean, there are so many churches who leaders and people go to those churches say, man, we have so few people who do the work. Like, we have so few people. And I look at Momentum Garfield Heights and I'm like, that's just not one of our major problems at Garfield Heights. I mean, it's just not. We have so many people. So thank you. Thank you so much for getting it and connecting the dots on why we serve, to love and serve God and to love and serve others. Recently, we've had some new apprentice leaders step up to apprentice in their Mo groups. Give it up for Vern Blaze, Josh Kaiser, and Justin Halaska. Yeah. And so they're apprenticing to be leaders in their Mo groups. But I want to say to Christians who aren't serving, I just want to say, if it's difficult for you to play a part in the team, I just honestly want you to know that your situation is probably not terribly dissimilar from others around you who are making sacrifices to serve. I mean, tons of people who serve on our teams have crazy or insane lives and schedules. They have small babies or multiple kids at home. We got a keyboardist who drives here all the way from Medina to serve in the band. They have demanding jobs or 2 vehicles they bring to church in order to alternate serving as maybe a husband and wife. Some people who are sometimes sad, lonely, depressed serve on our teams regardless. And some people who are like, I don't know how to help, but I'll let you apprentice me to learn this simple task, and I'll rotate with you doing this task every other week. And so I think one great picture of Momentum is Kathy Fankhauser, a.k.a. Rob Clausen's mom, if you know Rob. Kathy is a sweetheart, and every week she serves. Yes, give it up for Kathy. She is a sweetheart, and she serves week after week, duplicating sermon CDs and putting labels on them so that people can rehear the message. I don't know why they'd want to do that. Or give the message to a friend. She does it week after week. Kathy might murder me for saying this, but Kathy is 65 years old and walks with a cane. And I just want to ask you, what's your excuse? Like, she does it week in and week out. And if you're a follower of Jesus, I kind of don't understand. Even if I wasn't a pastor, I sure hope that I'd be that sold out guy that was a follower of Jesus at a church where I wouldn't be content with just walking in the doors and then walking out the doors and consuming church and being offered a service that I take and just leave. Like frankly, that's not church. That's not even Christianity. That's not Jesus. It's just not. So hear me well. At Garfield Heights, I'm encouraged by the amount of people and the percentage of people serving. We're not dying for help. I would just love to see you move forward spiritually, to take any step forward to get out of your comfort zone and make a move. Number 4, I have to be honest with you that I'm a city boy, but I love retreating to the country. So not only do I like a few country songs, I love retreating to the country. I don't know that I want to stay there, but I really love retreating to the country. A couple years ago on our anniversary, which is this week, coming up this week for me and my wife. Yes. Thank you. We were married at 16, and this is our third anniversary. Just going to continue to make age jokes. So a couple years ago, we got to go to Amish country down in like Holmes County. I was like, I've never been there. You know, what up with it, Holmes? And so went down to Holmes County, and we got off the interstate into the back roads heading toward Amish country, and I told Shannon, I was like, did you feel that? I just felt myself do something weird. I think I relaxed. It was crazy. Like I felt it come over my body like a drug. I was like, man, I think I just relaxed. That was crazy. And she's like, I felt it too. And it was like Amish country. I just love not just Amish country, but there I love that you can go and sample 400 types of cheeses. It's so amazing. It's like the greatest thing ever. Like that's a free meal. I just keep eating cheese and I don't poop for 7 days. So it's great. But my dream, where some people are like, I want a beach home. My dream is, I want a second home if I could ever afford one out in the country. Stick me in the woods, man. You know, a house that costs $1,200, and I'll just be out there in the woods, man, you know. Number 5, MoChurch.tv is one of the best things happening at Momentum. It is one of the best things happening, no doubt. 3 years ago, I started talking to a buddy of mine, Kevin Rush, about seriously considering live streaming our services online. And he said, okay, one of the things you're going to want to do is choose a primary target. Not the only people, but the primary target you're going to aim for at the dead center of the Bullseye Barbecue. And so I was like, okay. And he said, here are some examples of targets you could go after. The distant. People who live far away, but, you know, the goal here is to have like a national or international platform. I think Momentum could do this because you speak well to newcomers and all that. Then there's the displaced. People who used to be a part of Momentum, but then they moved to Washington, D.C., North Carolina, Florida, Indiana, and they're already bought in, but you could target them because it's hard to find a new church when you move to a new neighborhood. Or it could be the digitally minded, younger people who are already using technology as their first and primary way to begin and build relationships. Or it could be dating. People who live in your region, they know you, but they heard about you, you know, through a friend they work with, or they went to the back to school festival. They know you as a church, but they want to get to know you more before committing, showing up on Sunday morning. And so that could be your target too, is kind of the people who are kind of dating you. Like they're checked you out from across the room. They're like Joey Tribbiani, like, hey, how you doing, you know? And so checking you out. And so we decided, man, I think that's our primary target is people in this region. People in this region who we would say, hey, check us out. Listen to what we're talking about. Be like, yes, that's always what I thought followers of Jesus would teach and do. And now I think I can show up and not worry about passing out the Kool-Aid or it turning out to be a secret Scientology church or something weird like that. And so we decided that's our primary target, is those who are wanting to date us. But no matter who your primary target is, you're going to hit other people. We have people that watch us from all over the place. Every once in a while, some random guy from Russia, and he's like, I must break you. And so, but I love it. There's a few times where Shannon and I have been talking to friends in Greater Cleveland, and they've mentioned to us that they've been watching at MoChurch.tv, completely unchurched families, and we're like, wow, we did not know that. Like, that's super, super cool. I love it when in the lobby here or at our Twinsburg, Macedonia campus, I meet someone who says, first I watched at MoChurch.tv, then I went to the campus nearest me. I went to Garfield Heights campus or Twinsburg, Macedonia campus. I'm like, man, that's incredible. So right now, as we speak in our family meeting, there are Jeremy Speths watching online, some who have been watching for a long time, who are like, man, I'm checking this thing out, and we don't know their story at all, but it's unfolding right now. And one day, in months, maybe years, we'll get to hear that story the way we've heard Jeremy Speth's story. And so we're reaching some of the next Jeremy Speths right now, and our hope is to find communities in greater Cleveland through mochurch.tv where there's pockets of people dating us, and that maybe as they come and they get involved at Momentum and they become servant-hearted leaders who are giving and serving and all this kind of stuff, maybe apprenticing in a Mo group, that maybe eventually one day we'll be able to start a church or a campus closer to them in their neighborhood, and that they can go and be sent and be one of those key leaders. Maybe you, whoever's watching on mochurch.tv, once you get plugged in, there might be a time where we could send you back to your community as a core person to help start a new campus. But mochurch.tv is one of the best things happening at Momentum. Number 6, but mochurch.tv is also one of the most dangerous things that we're doing. Okay? So when we started this from the beginning, just over 2 years ago, we knew that one of the potential pitfalls of mochurch.tv was that Momentum team members and leaders could eventually start moving backwards spiritually and relationally by saying, you know what, man, I was out late on Saturday night. Man, the weather's, it's really cold right now. I don't know that I want to get out of bed. I kind of like to stay in my jammies and eat Honey Bunches of Oats during the sermon and just feel like I don't feel like getting up and going out, and that people could just stay home that were already connected relationally and a part of Momentum, and they can move backwards. Now, of course, it's a great benefit to have mochurch.tv when you're out of town or when you're sick or when you're in the hospital recovering from surgery. Man, that's totally legit. But I want you to imagine this. You have a friend who's in a transition, pivotal point in life. And say that friend kind of by your surprise, like they come up to you after they've had a divorce, after they've lost someone that they love, or they've been released from prison, or they just moved back to the area after living in a less awesome state for a few years, and they move back to the great state of Ohio. And so to your shock and excitement, they say to you, dude, I've really been thinking about this, but I need a change, and I need more positive and spiritual people around me and influences in my life. I think I'd like to roll with you to Momentum on Sunday. And you're pumped because you've been praying for this person. You're like, man, I've been praying so hard for this person. So you pick them up on Sunday, you bring them to Momentum here at Garfield Heights, you come on in, and your friend's really nervous because they think, maybe like Jeremy Speth, I don't know that I'm going to connect with church people. I've seen TV shows, okay? I know what church people are like through those sitcoms. I don't know that I could ever connect with a church person. But you show up and you're like, man, there are like 5 people in my Mo group specifically that I am pumped to introduce them to. Now you get here and you're like, wow, I just found out 3 of them are serving behind the scenes somewhere in maybe Mo Kids or some other place. So it's not going to be as easy to connect with them because they're serving, and that's great. But there's these 2 other people left, and after a couple of text messages, you find that those 2 people weren't scheduled to serve in any way this Sunday, so they stayed home and they watched on mochurch.tv. Womp. Womp. And so all of this effort, all of the ministry, all the resources that we've put into kind of helping people date us from afar and then showing up to kind of experience what are these followers of Jesus really like? What's this community really like? It doesn't pay off because the key people sometimes aren't there to connect with them. I mean, what comes after dating? Engagement, engaging people. And so I just want to be clear that Momentum Church, mochurch.tv, it's an incredible tool if we remember what our target and our vision for it is. It's not to make things more comfortable or convenient or consumable for us. It's yet another way for us to reach Jeremy Speth, people who are far from Jesus, and to see how Jesus can impact their lives spiritually. And when someone shows up on Sunday morning, that is one of the key moments where all the hard work pays off because we have the opportunity to engage them and to know them and to find out their story. Number 7, about 3 years ago, I realized I'm lactose intolerant. Just thought I'd share that with you in the sense of vulnerability. Like it's really milk. It's not so much cheese or other dairy products. So I can go crazy at the cheese barn, or I can go crazy in Amish country and all the cheese I want. But milk so much, I had to switch from chai lattes to coffee because in the afternoon I just started feeling something going on in my stomach that just didn't feel good. It just make this noise like, and I was like, dang, that's like Klingon. And So I just eventually made that move because I was like, man, like 3 hours after I eat a chai latte, I'm like Leonard Hofstadter from The Big Bang Theory. I'm like, okay, so I had to move to coffee. I just want to tell you that. So number 8, the faith and generosity of our Garfield Heights team has to grow. Okay, I know that a lot of this largely is my fault. Bad leadership, bad communication, bad vision casting. I haven't done a good enough job of communicating the direct correlation between our love for God and what that looks like as we cheerfully give a percentage of what God gives to us. Or how our generosity is directly connected to us reaching Jeremy Speth. Like that there's a direct correlation between our giving and us reaching people for Jesus. And right now, the Garfield Heights campus is a place where honestly, I don't even know what our capacity is right now. Like I know that there are Christians who are giving generously, percentage giving, and that there are also Christians who aren't giving at all, like $0. And there's a spectrum where I'm like, man, therefore I don't know what our capacity is. And to be honest, I'm working my butt off asking leaders questions, thinking hard, getting coaching, going on prayer walks, asking God to show up, just trying to find solutions to different problems in leadership right now. But every solution that I come up with for an obstacle, when I come up with a solution, there's often an obstacle to that solution, and often it's, we can't afford to do that. And I'm like, man, okay, let me think through this, let me get advice on this. Well, here's some ideas of what you could do. Here's a solution, obstacle to that solution. We can't afford to do that. And so we want to hire staff to serve your middle schoolers and high schoolers, but finances are the obstacle. We want facilities and location because for the first time in 13 years, facilities have become an obstacle for some of our ministry opportunities that we could be having right now. We have never been obsessed with brick and mortar. We've held for a long time saying we're not obsessed with getting a building. We don't need that until God makes it clear. You're being held back without that. And so now we're at that point finally, but finances are the obstacle. In fact, finances is a huge problem that offerings have actually gone down since I announced a few months ago that we think it's time to move into a permanent facility. And so we're like, man, my hands are tied in so many ways leadership-wise as I try to fight through some of these obstacles. And so this campus survives based on the generosity of a relatively small group of people. It really, really does. And right now, we're surviving when I know we could be thriving. We could be busting through obstacles. And I'm honestly not sure what our next step is other than the very obvious thing, and that is that other people who are Christians who are not giving have to begin giving sacrificially. And I'm afraid, honestly, like because of my makeup and the background of where I've come from, of not growing up really in the church, like I don't want to become that preacher that talks about money a bunch. And I feel like sometimes my hands are tied where I'm like, but I have to, or I'm being a terrible leader because we're in a hole right now. And I just don't want to become my own caricature character that I've created, Reverend Stig Hathaway, the televangelist, who's always begging for money. I'm like, man, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not that guy. That guy makes me like that. But I'm like, I don't want to be that. But I feel like about every 3 to 5 years, I'm getting up having a real serious conversation. Like, I've been telling us we're tanking and we're not doing well, but nothing seems to be happening. Like the ship doesn't seem to be righting. And I think our offerings, they have to go up, and it can't just be 1 week. It can't just be 1 month. It can't even just be 1 year of good offerings. We need a church of followers of Jesus who are being consistently generous and saying, I individually am going to pitch in and be a part of the team and figure out what I have to do to grow to be more like Christ and be a generous person. And it will be the faith of individuals at the Garfield Heights campus that will help us get back on track if people dig in and they reprioritize their budgets and their schedule so that we can stay on track reaching the next Jeremy Speths. Number 9, my peaks of encouragement and valleys of discouragement are both lower than they've ever been. Now, in the last 2, maybe 3 years, for the first time in my ministry, I have just felt this sense. 22 and a half years we're talking, that I've really been struggling with ministry itself. Really struggling. And I'm not used to this. I'm very used to people around me and people long distance from me and friends from college being like, man, you energize me. Like, you inspire me. I'm used to being that guy for other people. But for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been like, dang, man, I just feel like I'm taking haymakers. And everyone has peaks and valleys. I totally get that. But as I said, my peaks and valleys have both been significantly lower in the last 2, 3 years. And right now, we're typically at Garfield Heights campus running on Sunday mornings, counting kids and everyone, between 130, 150 people. Our staff has been working really hard together since the summer, just talking about, like, man, what does it mean for us to do a better job and to reach more Jeremy Speths so that our campus grows, because we're reaching more people, not just about numbers, but about reaching people like Jeremy Speth. And so we've been putting thought into that. What would it look like if our campus got to 200, 250, 300 people and we're worshiping together, reaching Jeremy Speth? And so that's a lot of what we've been talking about lately. A couple weeks ago, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, I had a buddy who is an incredible drummer. He's a super humble guy. His name's Gavin. He's the guy, the engineer that records my songs in the studio when I record. And my wife, Shannon, who was leading worship today vocally, one of them up here, she had invited Gavin to come play drums with us for a Sunday. And he was coming. I was like, oh, that's really crazy, because I'm actually getting ready to have a conversation with Gavin to kind of offer him a small part-time job that's kind of Sunday-centric, that he would be the one overseeing as like a tech lead. He's an incredible sound guy. He knows tons of stuff about computers and stuff. So I was like, man, that would be great to have him be like a part-time tech lead that's just here on Sunday mornings and does a little bit of stuff during the week. And so I thought, man, that's great you've invited him to play drums. So I had the conversation with Gavin, and then I thought this would be a great opportunity for him to see a picture of Garfield Heights campus. And that Sunday, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, 96 people showed up. 96. As far as I know, that's the lowest attendance we have ever had at any campus at Momentum. Double freaking digits. I was in the front row and I just kept looking over my shoulder like, well, this must be one of those Sundays where there's no one in here for worship and I'm going to get up to preach and be like, oh, there's everybody, there it is kind of thing. The students came representing big time. The students were like at least 3 rows deep. It looked like it was a middle school, high school church. I was like, dang, these students showed up, a lot of them without their parents even. Like, they were here to work. I thought Thanos had wiped out half of our congregation. I was like, what the flip is going on? And I was like, man, honestly, I was like, how can I recruit somebody to this? Like, if I were him, I'd be like, what in the world? Like, I couldn't hear the worship over the crickets. Like, that was crazy. If I were him, I'd be like, man, I was like, I can't believe it ended up being the lowest Sunday of all time. And I know it is the Sunday before a major holiday, and I know that my feelings of success and failure shouldn't rise and fall with the attendance. I've battled that ever since I've been a part of ministry, and I think I've battled it well, actually, not letting my heart be drawn by numbers. And I know that we have a ceiling and a floor of attendance, but the lowest Sunday ever, and all this happened while the staff is working on figuring out how do we reach more Jeremy Speths. How do we do that and get to 200, 250, 300 people over the next few years? How do we do that? And I was like, man, and all this happened during that time. And that Sunday, I thought in the front row, this is so much work for people to just not show up. Like, and a lot of you know it. A lot of you are in there with me, working as hard or harder than me, rolling up sleeves, setting up Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., tearing down afterward, all that stuff. This is so much work for people to just not show up. And honestly, that Sunday, I wanted to quit. I was just like, man, I just don't know. Like, I can't quit because I feel like God isn't letting me off the hook or calling me to something else, calling me to something easier, I'll be honest. But I just honestly, the week leading up to Thanksgiving, Shannon and I were both discouraged. And what's funny is, over the years, anytime there's been some discouragement, usually for me, I'm like, I just need a rest. I'm coming up on a rest, and when I get a few days of vacation, I come out of that all energized. But usually, if one of us is discouraged, the other one's like, psh, psh, shake it off. Come on, get up. You're good. Okay, thanks for telling me I'm good and smacking me twice. And so we get up and we're good. We brush each other off. This week before Thanksgiving, we were both discouraged at the same time. And that has never happened really. Like, dang, we're both discouraged. And that week, Shannon said to me, maybe Cleveland doesn't need us anymore. And what she meant by that was this. When we were called to Cleveland, it was like, man, we want to start a church that multiplies and that we can reach people for Jesus, and we support churches that reach people for Jesus and all this. But really, honestly, since we came to Cleveland, there are more good churches in Cleveland. Like, there are better churches and even churches that we didn't know about and all that stuff that have been emerging in Cleveland. So her honest statement was just like, I wonder if God's saying to us, there isn't a need like there was when you showed up in 2005 when you were called here. But both of us were like, whoa, that's the first time anything like that has ever come out of our mouths. You know, I want to be honest, I still feel called to ministry. But the thing that I keep fighting against, sometimes weekly, sometimes daily, are thoughts like maybe God's telling you to play a non-lead guy role at another church on another team somewhere. But I'll be honest, I want to lead momentum. And I want to lead momentum well. And ultimately, I feel like over the last 3 years, I feel like Satan has been spiritually attacking me, my family, and our church family. It's sometimes in pockets that I don't know anything about at times till later, and then I find out like, oh man, I didn't know that was going on. Like, dang, I feel like Satan's attacking that group or that ministry also. And I think it's been 3 years of things that have been discouraging or hurtful behaviors, some that I'm not even a part of, but people hurting each other, sickness. I mean, I had pneumonia this year. What am I, freaking 80? I had pneumonia. Like, okay, Shannon this week found out she has a herniated disc and, bonus, a bulging disc. And she has been in tons of pain, just walking around the house like this, still showing up the setup and people saying don't do stuff like that, you know, put that down and all that. But she's in a ton of pain, and we're just kind of like, that seems like that fits the MO right now. We're just going to stack that on top of everything. And so I feel like Moses in Exodus 17. You can turn there if you want, but you don't have to. I'm going to tell you the brief story. God's people, the Israelites, are out wandering in the wilderness led by Moses, and they get jumped by another people group called the Amalekites. They just come from this alley. They didn't see it coming. They're coming out of this alley, and like behind a dumpster, all of them are hiding behind there. They jump out, and they jump the Israelites. So this battle ensues, and while the soldiers are battling on the battlefield, the Israelites, God's people, are battling the Amalekites. Moses goes and he stands up on a hill, and he lifts his hands in prayer during this battle. And he prays during this battle, but his arms are getting tired. And the weird thing is that when his arms are in the air, God's people, the Israelites, are winning the battle. But when his arms go down to his sides, the Amalekites, the enemy, is winning the battle. And eventually there are two guys up on the hill that help Moses, a guy named Aaron and a guy named Hur. And they each grab an arm, and they hold Moses' arms in the air so that prayerfully the battle can be won on the field. And man, I'm just going to be honest with you. I feel like Moses right now, man. Like, it's been 2 or 3 years of increasingly feeling like, man, I just feel like spiritually we're getting attack after attack and discouragement after discouragement. And I love what I do, but we cannot continue to do what we do without resources. That's just the bottom line. And I can't beg people to remember every quarter why it is important for each of us to learn to be like Christ in this way or that way or another way. And you know, as a leader, there also comes to be a time where just like, man, are my sermons just things to listen to? Or are people moving forward spiritually? I know they are, but when you're discouraged, that's what you feel like. You're like, man, are people even trying to do this? And I know that there are people on the team who are. Here's my point. My point is, I think I'm a good leader. I don't think I'm an exceptional leader. And I don't know that I'm a good enough leader to fight us out of the hole that we're in unless it's a team effort. Unless everyone who is a follower of Jesus plays their role on the team and pulls together and says, man, it's my opportunity to take ownership, like to serve, to give, to share my faith, to invite, to figure out what my calling in this world is, and to do whatever it takes to be here on Sunday, to connect with others and encourage others, which leads me to the final thing that I have to be honest with you about, number 10, is that the entire Garfield Heights team needs to pull together. That's just the bottom line of what it is. And here are just some specific action steps that you can jot down, or Kathy will give you a CD on the way out. But specific action steps we need from every follower of Jesus at Momentum. If you're a follower of Jesus and you aren't giving generously, we need you to grow and give generously. If you're a follower of Jesus and you aren't serving, we need you to start serving just so you can have some forward spiritual movement. And on weeks where you aren't serving, be here to worship and encourage and connect with other people, engage them. You know, if you aren't praying and you're a follower of Jesus, we need you praying for Momentum and our leaders right now and the Jeremy Speths out in the community that we're trying to reach. And honestly, just to underscore all those things, is what we need from every follower of Jesus at Momentum is just also to be consistent. Like to not just give for a season and stop giving, not to serve for a season and stop, not to show up, you know, when the weather's good, because that'll be 3 Sundays this year, okay? So, you know, but to be consistent, to say, I'm going to dig in. The honest to goodness truth is, I would love some tangible feedback from people saying, I get it, Dan. I know I have been doing that. I've been rolling up my sleeves and working my butt off, but I haven't been praying. Or I know I've been really consistent showing up, but I haven't been giving sacrificially. And here's what I'm going to do. Email me, dan@momentumchurch.com. Trust me, I would love to hear from you. Man, I've only been in partly. I'm all in. We need people who have more ownership and less consumerism. I'm showing up so that a group of people can serve me and saying, man, I'm an owner here. Like, I'm going to own ministry at Momentum and pitch in and play my job. And I think the most powerful thing that I could possibly say to you is this: teamwork makes the dream work. I made that up. I made that up right now. No, I didn't. Some of you are looking like, he is a liar. He's a total liar. Teamwork makes the dream work. I mean, that's the only way for the vision of Momentum to happen, is not of a small group, a select group of people give, serve, work, commit, all that stuff. It's got to be a team effort. My promise is that I will pray hard with the elders. I will work hard with our other campus minister, Curtis Teal, to figure out how to better train and equip you to use your gifts and to make an impact and to continue the ripples, if you will also do your part, followers of Jesus. I'll stand on the hill. I'll keep my arms up. I'll pray. I have people at times who support me and help me keep my arms up. I will pray, and I'll also awkwardly mix the image by grabbing a sword and doing some wrecking with you. I mean, I'll do that kind of stuff, but people have to play their roles in the battle too. I think we can reach a ton more Jeremy Speths. I sincerely do. I can envision a future where we burst through obstacles, as we have every time in the history of Momentum, when we've sent people to start a new church and we've struggled after that. And we've burst through that obstacle, and God has blessed us, and people have stepped up. And I envision a future where we can reach more Jeremy Speths. If that happens, we can reach many more Jeremy Speths in Greater Cleveland. And I know this is an awkward time. It's like heading into the holidays. We're overwhelmed with family events and things going on and parties and all kinds of things happening. But I'm just saying, I wanted to do this in early December because I want us to be thinking about this and making moves so that we can start doing something in December, hit the ground running in January, and that people will think through their schedules and their budget and have conversations with their children or their spouse and think about New Year's resolutions that are spiritual and things like that, and have that conversation so that when January comes, we can hit the ground running. So let me just close by briefly saying this. My whole family lives in Greater Cleveland, Ohio. I got my new tattoo this week. This is my youngest son, Journey Battle. He's 11. That's right. It's pretty dope. He likes it. But Journey, my son Journey, was born in Cleveland, Ohio. And the reason is because of you. Like we live here because I love you. My family loves you. We envision a Momentum with you at it before we even knew you. You know, like we want to reach people, serve people, love people, help them live out their dreams that God is giving them in the name of Jesus. We want to do all that stuff. Momentum's family now loves you. We've envisioned you moving forward spiritually before we ever knew what you looked like. You are loved. All I've ever wanted to do since I was 19 years old is lead an awesome church. And man, the story has been incredible. I feel like I'm getting to live out that dream, but I want to lead a church that's hitting on all cylinders and reaching its full potential so that we can continue to reach people like my friend Jeremy Speth, people that make it all worth it. And we say, look at what Jesus has done in his life. He gets it. He's leading himself. He's giving to others. He's investing in others, and they're being transformed by Jesus around him too. So let me pray. God, I pray, honestly, just that you would move through your people. God, I pray that you would show up through your people, and I boldly ask you to let each one of us, including myself, know what is it that we need to do to take a step forward spiritually? What is it that we need to do to squash something that Satan is using to get a foothold in our church? What is it that I need to do to get myself out of a comfort zone and move forward spiritually, to love you, God, to love others, and to make disciples of Jesus who make disciples of Jesus? And God, I just ask this in the name of Jesus. I know you've given us free will. It's our choice. But God, I pray that you whisper in our ears what you want us to do to move forward. God, I know that it's the faith of people in this room and the faith of people online who will help our church grow spiritually, numerically, and accomplish your mission in this world, God. I pray that you would move. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.